Hey there, my friend. I'm genuinely thankful you've chosen to spend your time with this video. And if you decide to hit that subscribe button, it would honestly mean so much to me. But for now, let's get into the story. The sun blazed down unforgivingly as Jason Miller guided his car into the cooler shadows of Cypress Creek Drive, the quiet cul-de-sac that would now be home. There was a flicker of eager anticipation in his eyes. Standing on the front steps of their freshly repainted two-story house was Emily, his wife, waving at him with a radiant smile that rivaled the sunlight. This was the beginning of something real, a milestone carved out after scraping through years of tight budgets, skipped vacations, and microwave meals. A blank page. For Jason, this move represented long-anticipated peace, a place where Emily could paint without the city's noise, and he could telecommute in quiet as a systems analyst. At a glance, everything seemed perfect. But the street had an unsettling quality, too immaculate, too pristine. The lawns looked synthetic in their precision, the air thick with the sickly perfume of chemically enhanced flowers. The residents? Always grinning, just a shade too broadly. And among them, one neighbor quickly stood out. Blake Stanton, who lived just across the road. He inserted himself into their world with effortless confidence. Attractive, athletic, with a perfectly timed smile and shirts that fit just a little too well. His magnetism was anything but accidental. He carried himself with the sort of easy confidence that made it hard to imagine he'd ever heard the word no. During their first introduction, he handed Jason a chilled beer with a friendly, "Let me know if you ever need anything." But his eyes, they lingered on Emily, just a heartbeat too long. Emily gave a polite laugh, brushing a loose strand of auburn hair behind her ear. "That's sweet of you, Blake." Jason returned the smile, but something inside him stiffened. He told himself it was probably just envy. Emily was beautiful, after all. He was used to other men noticing. Still, this felt different. Not casual admiration, more like calculation. Blake wasn't just present, he was persistent. He always seemed to be nearby, eager to offer a hand or drop off a six-pack. Jason, typically locked in his office for hours, would come out now and then to find Blake chatting away with Emily on the porch. One night, while Jason washed dishes, he caught sight of them laughing together by the driveway. Blake passed her something wrapped in a dish towel. She blushed. Later, Jason asked, "What was that about?" Emily replied lightly, "His mom baked banana bread. He brought us some." Jason furrowed his brow. "Didn't he do that like 3 times already this week?" Emily chuckled, rolling her eyes. "You're being paranoid." Still, the unease clung to him. Emily had begun keeping her phone on silent. Her painting sessions turned private. The door always closed. Her once bright expressions toward him now felt faded, distant. Something had shifted, and Blake was never far from the frame. While organizing the garage one afternoon, Jason stumbled across something that made his blood run cold. A coffee mug tucked among the art supplies. It bore an image of a rustic cabin he didn't recognize. Inscribed beneath it in looping script were the words, "A weekend I'll never forget, B." His hands trembled. That evening, he asked Emily about it. She brushed it off, insisting Blake must have left it by accident. "You're reading into things," she said with firm finality. But Jason had caught a glimpse of something in her eyes, an emotion closer to dread than guilt. Not fear of doing wrong, fear of getting found out. The affair hadn't fully unraveled yet, but its shape was forming. What stung most wasn't the lie. It was the look she gave him after, not ashamed, just annoyed that he'd caught on. That night, Jason lay awake, refusing to sleep. Emily slept beside him, her back turned, her breathing even. Everything was normal, except nothing was. His mind churned. That mug wasn't some innocent mistake. It was either a careless giveaway or a cruel message. By the next morning, something had hardened inside Jason. He no longer hoped he was mistaken. He needed proof. Silently, he began setting up hidden cameras, disguised as security lights, one discreetly placed in the hallway vent, another planted in his office, aimed to capture the living room where Emily spent much of her day. For the first 2 days, the footage was mundane. Emily baking, napping, watering the garden. But on the third, Jason saw something that hollowed him out. Blake appeared, but this time, there was no doorbell. Emily opened the door before he reached it. She'd been waiting. They talked casually. Blake leaned on the counter while she poured 2 glasses of wine, Jason's wine. He cracked jokes. She laughed. He brushed a crumb from her lip. Their hands touched. Jason watched, frozen, his chest tight. Then the moment came. Blake leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't tentative. It was practiced. Familiar. Emily didn't pull away. She kissed him back, soft and lingering. They didn't go upstairs, not this time. But the intimacy was unmistakable. They laughed easily. Blake whispered something in her ear. She nodded. Jason didn't yell, didn't break anything. He just sat there, rigid, as a crushing silence filled the room. The betrayal settled over him slowly, like snow piling up. The woman he had sacrificed so much for had willingly slipped into the arms of someone who showed up with pastries and swagger, but it wasn't the kiss that haunted him. It was what came after. When Blake left, Emily closed the door gently, rested her forehead against it, and smiled. A real smile. Jason remembered when that smile used to be his. Back in their cramped old apartment, living off dreams and instant noodles. Maybe she had loved him, or maybe she just loved what he could provide. Now, she wanted something else, someone else. Not just a betrayal, it was a replacement. In the days that followed, Jason documented everything. Screenshots, recordings, audio files. One night, he slid a small voice recorder under the couch cushions. That's when he heard the line that broke him completely. Blake's voice. She still doesn't have a clue. Then Emily. By the time he figures it out, we'll be long gone. Blake added. The cabin's prepped. Jason listened to that recording over and over. Gone? Where? Were they planning to disappear together? Take something with them? How deep did this go? Then came the final fracture. One Tuesday, when Emily claimed she had a dentist appointment, Jason came home midday to grab a file he'd forgotten. As he stepped through the front door, he heard footsteps above, and voices. He climbed the stairs slowly. At the bedroom door, he heard Blake. Are you sure he's not coming back? Emily laughed. Jason's too wrapped up in work to notice. Jason didn't enter. He turned around and left, like a ghost exiting the remnants of his life. But inside, something ignited. That night he made 3 phone calls, first to a quiet, high-end private investigator, then to a divorce attorney. Finally to Isaac, an old college buddy now deep in cybercrime with a federal agency. I need your help, Jason said. I can't explain yet, but I will. Isaac agreed. What they uncovered pulled the mask off everything. Blake wasn't just a smooth-talking neighbor. He was a professional manipulator, dozens of aliases, a suspended contracting license, a sealed record from years ago, a defunct company linked to embezzlement. And the cabin? Registered to a fake company, one listed under a different woman's name entirely. Emily wasn't his first, just his latest. Jason saw it clearly now. This wasn't only a failing marriage. It was a setup. And Emily, the woman he once built a life with, was stepping willingly into the web of a seasoned predator. Jason wasn't a victim anymore. He had tools now, both tactical and psychological. His mind was sharp, his nerves steady, and his conviction unshakable. The balance of power had shifted. He moved with the composed assurance of someone who had endured the unimaginable and emerged with nothing to lose, but everything to reclaim. Grief hadn't destroyed him, it had stripped away the unnecessary. What remained was focused, deliberate, and unyielding. No one noticed the change. Emily still kissed him goodbye each morning with mechanical affection, hummed along to soft playlists while folding laundry, and even floated the idea of visiting her parents' cabin in Vermont. Jason offered a warm smile. "Sounds perfect. Let's make it happen." But beneath the surface, the foundation had already begun to fracture. He had forwarded every piece of surveillance to Isaac, encrypted, documented, verified. The response came during the small hours. 3 words that changed everything. "We got him." Blake had a past. It wasn't damning enough for federal prosecution, but it was sufficient to rouse interest from local authorities if nudged in the right direction. Blake had a long history of deception, preying on emotionally isolated women, persuading them to invest in him or hand over access to their assets. He'd charm them, gain their confidence, move in first emotionally, then physically. Before long, their homes became assets, used for smuggling, laundering, storing stolen goods. He was a fraud dressed in tailored suits and sweet cologne, but Jason didn't just want an arrest, he wanted complete dismantling. Blake's scam, his lies, his hold over Emily. Jason needed her to confront reality, when it was already beyond saving, that she'd been nothing more than a scripted act in Blake's performance. So Jason leaned fully into the part she once adored. He became the loving husband again, brought flowers home, made her dinner, massaged her shoulders, spoke gently, as if their troubled past was something they could quietly outgrow. Emily, hesitant but hopeful, responded with guarded affection. Sometimes guilt flickered behind her eyes, but she remained silent. Jason handed her a way out, and she took it, convinced she was still steering the wheel. Meanwhile, he secured their world behind her back, updated passwords, canceled joint credit lines, quietly met with his lawyer and triggered an old clause in their prenup, placing their shared assets solely under his control. Then, on a cool Friday morning, he acted. He knew Blake would be out. Emily had passed along the day's schedule like a willing informant. Jason drove for miles, parked off-grid, and hiked through the woods to a remote cabin. Dressed to be invisible, hat, gloves, compact tools in tow, he approached the home. It was locked, but the rear window had a flaw. Inside, the place felt temporary. A mattress, a mini fridge, no photographs, no warmth, no trace of a real life. But the closet told a hidden story. Duffel bags, jewelry, multiple laptops and IDs. Jason photographed everything. He pocketed a gold chain, took a license not issued to Blake. On a small table sat a prepaid phone, filled with messages. From Emily. He backed up every message. Dates, timestamps, full transcripts. "I'm counting the days until we're free of him. As soon as the cabin's ready, I'll tell Jason. I just want us, like you said." Jason read the words again and again, until the letters blurred. She believed Blake. Believed she mattered to him. Believed she was different. He stepped out of the cabin and called Isaac. "I've got proof. Stolen items. Fake ID. It's all here." "Send it," Isaac replied. By Monday, the filings were complete. The house was officially Jason's. The bank accounts were inaccessible to anyone but him. Even the car was transferred into a private trust. Emily, meanwhile, was preparing her moment. She cooked his favorite meal, lit candles, opened a bottle of red. Jason recognized the setup. Halfway through the meal, she reached across the table. "Jason, there's something I need to tell you." He raised an eyebrow. "Yeah?" Her fingers tensed, then withdrew. "Never mind," she whispered. "Forget it." He smiled gently. "Okay." Her moment had passed. The opening for truth was gone. The very next day, everything collapsed. A storage unit registered under Blake's alias was raided by police. Isaac had made the anonymous call. And Jason? He calmly stepped into the living room with an envelope in hand. "What's this?" Emily asked, puzzled. "Your new lease," he said softly. She frowned. "Lease?" "For the guest house," he clarified. "We're separated now." Her expression froze. "What are you saying?" Jason turned on the television. A newscaster's voice rang out. "Arrested today on multiple felony charges: fraud, identity theft, and transporting stolen property across state lines." Emily's breath faltered. The screen showed Blake in cuffs, forced into a police cruiser. "Jason," but he walked away. Isaac's next text came minutes later. "He's asking for a lawyer. You won't believe what else we found." Jason was far from finished. Emily's scream followed him to the front door, but he didn't look back. The envelope remained on the table, silent and lethal. She stared at it, paralyzed. On screen, Blake's mugshot lingered, bruised and swollen. No charm, no disguise. The anchor continued. "Authorities say he used multiple aliases. At least 6 women identified across the Midwest. Often claimed to be a contractor. Federal charges are under review." Emily stumbled away from the couch like it had turned to flame. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She didn't answer. It buzzed again, then went quiet. Jason sat alone in a dim bar downtown. Isaac arrived, dropping a thick folder onto the table with a weary grunt. "I wasn't going to show you all of it," he said, "but you deserve to know the whole scope." Inside, photos, chat logs, financial documents. A shell account opened under Emily's name. "She wired $2,000 from your joint account last month," Isaac said. "She signed for the cabin, ordered supplies. Her name's everywhere." Jason exhaled slowly. He felt hollow. "So she wasn't just tricked," he said softly. Isaac gave a grim nod. "She didn't know everything, maybe. But she knew enough. If she keeps defending him, she could face charges too." Jason didn't know if that made things better or worse. That night he returned home. Emily was in the kitchen, shaken and pale, eyes swollen from hours of crying. "I didn't know," she whispered. He leaned against the counter. "Didn't know what?" "That he was lying. Jason, please, I didn't know who he really was." "You moved stolen goods, sent him money, signed off on shipments." "I thought it was for us," she sobbed. "I thought we were building a new life." "No," Jason said quietly. "You thought it was your way out." Her knees buckled beneath her, but Jason had no forgiveness left. "I'm not the one you need to apologize to," he said. "That's for the courts to decide now." In the days that followed, Emily was called in for questioning. She claimed she'd been deceived. Her attorney pleaded for leniency. Jason said nothing, no defense, no retaliation. He just handed over the evidence and walked away. But her life continued to unravel. The pristine lawns of Cypress Creek hid cold shoulders and judgmental whispers. Windows that once opened in greeting now stayed shut. Children were pulled away from sidewalks as she passed. Friends disappeared. Her artwork was pulled from the gallery walls. Even her parents called, angry, disappointed, demanding answers. "Why didn't you say anything?" Emily stopped picking up the phone. She isolated herself in the guest house Jason now legally rented to her. He visited just once more. A storm brewed overhead, the sky churning with tension. When she opened the door, she looked ghost-like, thinner, haunted. Jason carried 2 boxes inside. "Your paintings, your camera, your ring," he said simply. He placed them gently on the floor. The ring sat on top in its velvet box. She stared, unmoving. "I never wanted it to end like this," she whispered. Jason gave a slow, solemn nod. "That's exactly the problem, Emily. You never chose anything. You just drifted along like life was happening to you instead of with you. While I was out there putting in the work, building something real, you just handed control over to someone else." Tears welled in her eyes. "Do you hate me?" she asked, her voice barely audible. He paused, inhaled deeply. "No," he said, quiet but certain. "But I don't love you anymore either." She turned her face away, trembling as the sobs overtook her. Jason said nothing more, just turned and headed for his car. As he reached the door, her voice rang out behind him. "What happens now?" He stopped without turning. "You find out who you are when there's no one left to lie to." Then he opened the door, got in, and drove off. He didn't look back. The following weeks passed in hushed stillness. The divorce was handled with clinical detachment. No outbursts, no legal theatrics. The judge sorted through the documentation and split the property cleanly. Jason kept the house. Emily got a small settlement, barely enough to afford an apartment. She didn't contest it. She didn't have the energy to. Blake's outcome was far worse. The criminal charges continued to mount. Wire fraud, theft of identity, possession of stolen goods. Emily agreed to testify, which spared her a jail sentence, but couldn't shield her from public disgrace. Jason never contacted her again. Instead, he focused inward, reshaping the life he'd almost lost. He left his job, stepped away from the daily pressure, and reconnected with his brother. His weekends turned into escapes into the woods, long hikes replacing late-night deadlines. The sharp ache in his chest dulled little by little. Then one night his phone rang. It was Isaac. "Man, you're gonna get a kick out of this," Isaac said, a chuckle in his tone. "Blake tried to spin the whole thing. Said Emily set up the stash, tried to throw her under the bus." Jason laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. "Figures. Coward right to the end." "Didn't work," Isaac replied. His record shouted louder than his lies. After the call, Jason stood at the window for a long while. The sky outside was clear, the house still and quiet. He felt something he hadn't felt in ages: peace. Emily had moved out of the guest house after a court order mandated it. She slipped away without a word, leaving only a folded note behind. "I lost it all. Even the best man I've ever known. I get why you left. Honestly, I would have too." Jason crushed the paper in his hand. He didn't need her apologies. Whatever closure he once sought from her no longer mattered. What had started as a thirst for vengeance had transformed into something far colder: justice. Inevitable. Final. By winter, he donated every cent recovered from Blake's hidden stash to a local shelter, quietly, without a name attached. No headlines, no credit, just the quiet satisfaction of doing the right thing. And for the first time in years, Jason could finally breathe. Peace, real and lasting, had found him at last. That's where we'll end this story. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for being here with us. If this story spoke to you, be sure to check out our other videos. Until next time, friend.